Bring the lights down low, time to start the show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful or odd. We cover them all on your favorite pod. They're dramatic, funny, sometimes scary. That's not weird, that's extraordinary. I got the need and I got a fever. So play me a little dream weaver. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no last. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no last. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
It is the 30-something movie podcast, and I'm your host, John Reed. And as always, I am here with my fellow faithful travelers, Bo Warmbold and Patrick Canigallo. Bo, how's it going?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excellent.
Excellent.
Patrick, how are you?
Doing well, John. Happy to be here.
We're well on our way to completing our road trip month that we've got. This is our month of June, and we've gone on a little road trip here. We had our Patreon episode was Taxi Driver. We've had Bottle Rocket, Black Sheep. This week is Get on the Bus. And then next week to finish the whole thing off is Beavis and Butthead Do America. So as I'm thinking through the movies that are this month, it's a veritable whiplash of movie styles and caliber. And we've gone Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket to David Spade and Chris Farley's Black Sheep to Spike Lee's Get on the Bus to Beavis and Butthead Do America. And we had Taxi Driver.
It's been a whirlwind.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind. Yeah. I feel like a dog watching a tennis match.
I feel like that's extraordinary.
That is extraordinary. What would you like to watch next? That needs to be our drop. We need to somehow change it to say that's extraordinary. What would you like to watch next?
I'm sure there's a way
You
to
think is Captain Esteban still alive?
I'm sure he is. Maybe we can give him a call.
I was going to say, do you think we could, get him just to give us a line read?
I'll see if I can track him down. JT Esteban. So the question is, who played Captain JT Esteban?
Is it
Philip-
sick that we
Philip
both
R.
knew his full name, just pretty much a throwaway character at the beginning of that movie?
There are no throwaway characters.
That's fair.
But yes, it is sick that we knew it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Captain JT Esteban. It's going to be a little tough. He passed away in 2012.
Oh.
So that may be a challenge. Okay. All right. Well, his son is alive, so maybe, I don't know if his son track him down. He's 36. He lives in California.
This is getting kind of creepy. I'm just saying we're
Yeah. Which is the creepy that we're tracking people down.
speaking of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, I think they looked at Frank Sinatra Jr. for playing Frank Sinatra in place of who was the lounge singer that was such a great addition?
Joe Piscopo?
No,
Vic Fontaine was the character.
Vic Fontaine. That was Bobby
That was
Darin.
Darren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They originally were looking at it being like Frank Sinatra, and they were going to have Frank Jr. play him, but that didn't work for one reason or another.
But am I crazy? Wasn't Joe Piscopo in Star Trek?
Yeah, somewhere.
Was he in The Next Generation? He was. It was the episode where Data was trying to learn comedy.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. All right. So I'm not even going to finish that sentence. I am totally insane, but
Okay.
that's neither here nor there. Our movie this time around is Get on the Bus, Spike Lee movie, Get on the Bus. A spoiler alert, we spoil freely here, so be warned if you hear the name of a movie, if we mention it in conversation and you're like, I don't want to hear anything about that, maybe just skip a couple times and we should have moved on. Make sure you visit our website if you haven't already, podcast.com. Leave us a rating, a voicemail. You can become a co-executive producer via Patreon over there. And thank you, as always humbled, always appreciative of all the folks over there on Patreon that are supporting us and helping keep the lights on over here every single month. So we are super, super thankful for that. And I do want to mention, a lot of times we don't pull back the curtain on, some of the inner workings of the podcast, but we are working on I am working with a new system on the podcast for us to be able to, make some of the editing and some of the other stuff a little easier. And so definitely the support that we get through Patreon definitely helps with the cost of that, because there definitely is a cost involved in that. So I just want to specifically say thank you to the Patreon folks, because that is, we're not just taking that and going out and getting drinks.
No.
I mean, if we had a 30 podcast corporate card, I guess we could go out and do that from time to time, but we don't. And
we should talk to our comptroller and see
Yes.
if the 30 podcast comptroller can hook us up with that.
But I think the comptroller just keeps track of the records. I think we need to talk to the treasurer.
Okay.
I understood there would be no math. I don't know how many times
But
I have to say it.
but when will then pay for now?
That's fair. This is all good questions.
Here, Bo, I'll help you out with that one.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah.
I can't decide if the fact that I don't say it exactly right is better or worse. Am I butchering
it's
the
fine.
quote, or am I paraphrasing it and making it my own?
Oh, you're paraphrasing it, making it
Paraphrasing,
your own.
Love
making
it.
it
Okay.
your own.
Yeah.
I
that's
love
what you
this
should
plan.
do.
I love
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Because like last week when you dropped it as part of a question, one of the questions for whatever the heck movie
That
we
might
were
be
talking
next
about.
week.
The one
When
that
will
we
that
already
be now? No, it was last week.
Okay.
I was just messing with you, Pat.
I was going to say, so do you remember last week when we were talking about the movie that we're doing coming up here? But you did, because you talked about how he delivers it and how Jane Curtin added up. Yeah, the whole thing. I think you pay homage to the original with your own artistic interpretation.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that.
I pay homage to
I
Scotland.
appreciate you.
The feeling is mutual.
I only pay homage to Scotland.
Boy.
That's different. That's different. Pat, I have
And here we go.
There we go. Based on your timeline, Pat, I have a book you might be interested in. It's called Gray's Sports Almanac.
It had an interesting feature. This is called a dust cover before they invented dust repellent paper.
That's right. That's right. We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
The easy way.
Easy way. All right. So our movie this time is Get on the Bus. It came out on October 16th, 1996, which I believe is exactly 1 year from the actual Million Man March that took place in October 16th of 1995, I believe, if I got that correct. Rating R, runtime of 2 hours and 1 minute, directed by Spike Lee, who did Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. This, I believe, the first of his movies, and possibly only, I didn't double check, but at least the first of his movies where he neither acts in it or appears in the movie in any way. He is completely behind the camera in this one. Writer for this one is Reggie Rock Bythewood. He was in Notorious and Biker Boys, or writer for Notorious and Biker Boys. Producer is Reuben Cannon, who did Diary of a Mad Black Woman and Medea's Family Reunion. Barry Rosenbush did The Cutting Edge and Scary Movie 2, and Spike Lee did Black Klansman and Inside Man. Composer was Terrence Blanchard, who did The Five Bloods and One Night in Miami. Cinematographer is Elliot Davis, who did Twilight and The Iron Lady. Editor is Leander T. Sales, who did Clockers and Bamboozled. Production company is 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks. Budget was $2.4 million. Box office was $5.7 million. Flickmetrics gives it a 77%. CinemaScore gives it an A. Starring Richard Belzer, who passed in 2023. He was Rick. He was in Scarface and a Very Brady sequel. Andre Brower, who passed in 2023, was Flip. He was in Glory and Primal Fear. Ossie Davis, who passed in 2005, was Jeremiah. He was in The Client and Bubba Hotep. Charles S. Dutton was George. He was in Alien 3 and Rudy. Bernie Mac, who passed in 2008, played Jay. He was in Ocean's 11 and Bad Santa. Albert Hall was Craig. He was in Apocalypse Now and Malcolm X. Hill Harper was Xavier. He was in He Got Game and The Skulls. Harry Lennox was Randall. He was in The Matrix Reloaded and Man of Steel. DeAndre Bonds was Junior. He was in Tales from the Hood and the Wood. Isaiah Washington was Kyle. He was in True Crime and Out of Sight. And Gabriel Cassius was Jamal. He was in Black Hawk Down and Fallen. So a couple of things trivia-wise about this one is the film was funded by 15 prominent African-American men because Spike Lee wanted to kind of stay out of having this be studio funded. He wanted this to kind of fit with the idea behind the Million Man March of being self-reliant. And so I believe some of the backers for this were, each of them contributed roughly $100,000 to the budget of this movie. I believe Danny Glover, Will Smith, who was an up-and-coming actor at this point, Wesley Snipes. Yeah. So I believe each of them contributed $100,000 to the budget of this. And so that was how he wanted to make sure that this movie was funded. The entire movie, from what I understand, was shot in about 3 weeks, I think about 18 days. And they wanted to make sure that they could get this done pretty quickly so they could release it at least near the first anniversary of the Million Man March, if not actually on the anniversary of the Million Man March. To make sure that this had kind of a documentary style feel to it, a film was shot using millimeter and super 16 millimeter film stock rather than the standard millimeter to give it that look and feel. And the real life organizer of the Million Man March, Benjamin Chavis, makes a brief appearance in the film as himself. I think I already mentioned this is one Spike Lee is not, he didn't act or appear in this one at all. Yeah, and that real quick timeline of 18 days to try to get it finished so they could get it out in the time that they wanted. So all right. For this one, we're going to give you the voiceover. We're going to give you some major moments, and then we'll dive into some of our deeper thoughts on this movie. In a world divided, 15 strangers embark on the journey of a lifetime. There's George, there's Jeremiah, there's Flip, there's Xavier. They board a bus bound for Washington, D.C., carrying the weight of their pasts and the hopes of a nation. They seek a common ground, but the road is paved with conflict. This October, join the movement. One bus, one goal, 1,000 miles to manhood. Get on the bus.
Brothers, can I have your ears, please? If you want to go to the Slauson Swap Meet, the Brentwood Mansion, the L.A. Zoo, or the La Brea Tar Pits, then your black ass is on the wrong bus. This bad boy is going to Washington, D.C. for the Million Man March.
I guess if the brothers are getting together, you know, talking about some things, trying to work things out, I want to be there, right?
How do you propose working things out without a sister?
Court order says they have to keep my son tethered for 72 hours.
I thought slavery was over.
My homies call me Smooth.
Ain't no way I'm calling my son Smooth.
Oh, all of a sudden, I'm your son again.
Love to talk about what they gonna do. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
When you use that word that way, are you talking about you two?
I need space. That's it.
What's that after all we've been through together?
Boy style.
I forgot. You can't let your macho self out of the closet. He said, you're not man enough to admit that you love me to him.
It's okay to be gay, it's okay to be black. As long as you a Republican, you all right.
We're getting ready to ride into history. You can't roll with Washington with that boy in shackles.
Director Spike Lee welcomes you aboard on a journey of discovery.
If you're ready to stop being the boys that started on this bus to Washington and be, you know, the men that our wives and our mothers and our children are waiting for back home. If you're ready to do that, then we got work to do.
You just...
All right, so major moments for this one. The journey begins with 15 disparate men from Los Angeles boarding a bus bound for the Million Man March in Washington, D.C., each of them kind of bringing their own personal baggage and their own ideas on this trip, many of them going for different reasons, but also for some of the same reasons, too. Xavier, an aspiring filmmaker, kind of begins interviewing the other passengers on the bus. That immediately sparks heated political and social confrontations among the group. And that is kind of the bulk of the movie, is you're on this kind of claustrophobic bus. You're there, you're trapped, but you've got all these the 15 different guys have very different ideas and very different things and what they, like I said, kind of the baggage they bring with them. And so Xavier there is there to try to help document some of that as we go along. The oldest member of the group, Jeremiah, is sharing some stories of his African heritage, personal struggles, and kind of successfully eases some of the tensions and helps to unify some of the younger men together as the trip goes along. After the bus breaks down, a white Jewish driver named Rick ends up taking over, but he eventually quits after facing some prejudice from the group and kind of citing some of his own moral objections that he's uneasy about the idea of the Million Man March because of Louis Farrakhan and because of some things that Farrakhan might have said about the Jewish community and just some different comments. So he kind of, on moral grounds, he doesn't necessarily want to stick around and finish the trip. George, the trip organizer and a professional bus driver himself, takes over the driving duties to ensure the group reaches their destination on time. While passing through the South, they encounter some hospitable locals, and they pick up Wendell, this wealthy conservative Lexus salesman who wants to use the march for some networking and to gain himself some additional car sales. The group becomes disgusted by Wendell's disparaging remarks about other African Americans and eventually forcibly throws him off the bus after a bit of a heated argument takes place. In Knoxville, racist state troopers pull the bus over under the false suspicion of drug smuggling, subjecting the men to a humiliating search before letting them go. There was a funny little bit that I did not include when we were going through the cast and crew and all those people, but the Tennessee state trooper is played by Randy Quaid, so in an uncredited role. So
in a rare, straight,
right,
not completely over the top role.
Right, exactly. As the bus nears D.C., Jeremiah, the oldest one in the group, collapses from advanced coronary artery disease, leading several of the men to stay at the hospital with him, and then he eventually passes away. Because of this, the men end up missing the march to stay with Jeremiah, but they do finish the journey by going to the Lincoln Memorial to recite a prayer that Jeremiah wrote and leaving Junior's handcuffs behind. Now, those are the 10 major moments, and now we'll dive into a little bit of deeper thoughts on this one.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
Okay, let me start off this one a little bit differently. Had any of us seen this before, like, the last couple weeks?
Nope.
I have not.
You had not. Okay, so this was a first-time viewing for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. This is one of those, and I was trying to remember. I was like, did one of us recommend to put this on the list? Because it was not, when I go and I make the list every year, my first round of stuff is, did it make more than $10 million in the box office? This one did not. So my guess is this was probably kind of like a second run through of, okay, so we got the ones that made money. Now let's go see what are some of the ones that are like must see. It's going to fly under the radar, but you got to see it if you want to do, a good look at the movies of 1996 as we're going through them. I would imagine that's kind of where that ended up making the cut. So let me start with this. Since this was our first viewing, let me ask it this way. What, if you had to pick one thing, at least to start off with, what's the most memorable thing about when you watch this movie for the first time within the last couple weeks? What's memorable about it?
Well, I think the performances are incredible. And the way that it encapsulates, people coming together for a cause, but then also how these people come from all different belief structures and all over the political spectrum, all of it. And even though they're in one way of like mind, they're very diverse in terms of their thoughts and outlooks on things. And I think especially now in this time where we're very fractured, and I mean, you disagree with someone and that is like that, it's an us versus them. Immediately, that's what we go to. And in the most extreme, violence and just terrible vitriol when we, quote unquote, debate. And I think what this movie shows is how people can still come together for a cause or for an overall belief, even though they're very different in their opinions. And I think you see different ways that they discuss things. It's not all sunshine and roses where, oh, well, we just disagree and that's okay. But it shows how people could interact in maybe a little bit more of a civil way than what we're doing right now. I guess that's my, the most memorable thing I see with that.
Yeah, they're not a monolithic group. It's not like all black people feel this way about political things or, and I think that's something I appreciate as well, getting to see in this movie in this context, because like you said, I mean, today there are all kinds of different ways that people struggle to just have civil conversations about things. And there are all kinds of ways that some groups that I may be a part of, I may not agree with when referenced on the news. If somebody says, well, because I am a Christian. So when somebody on the news will say something like, well, Christians believe this and they side with this. And I'm like, oh, no, not all of them. So let's hold on there. Let's break that label apart just a little bit. And let's not go that route. And so that I think was something I enjoyed too, like to piggyback on yours, Pat, was you actually get to see, I think Spike Lee does a pretty good job of this in most of his movies. You get to see that everybody, nobody is one consistent monolithic group. Like everybody within whatever group has their own opinions, their own ways of thinking, their own everything. Like everybody's individual. But you can have 15 individuals on this bus all there for a common purpose. And that's fine. Well, what was for you? What was the most memorable thing?
I think to Pat's point, the performances, the actors, this cast was just amazing. Like every time they introduced somebody else, you're like, dude, okay. I think their willingness to explore, and this is kind of a Spike Lee theme, but his willingness to explore the things people don't like to talk about, I think is what makes it a memorable.
Yeah, it was fun to see some of these actors that you've seen in other things. I mean, you've seen like, Charles S. Dutton in Alien 3, one of the greatest alien movies that's ever been created. You had...
Okay, let's dial it back about 20% there, Big Shooter.
Hey, it's my podcast.
That's fair.
I can say whatever I want, and all Johns agree with me. Every John in the whole world.
Go.
Like we are one consistent group, and we all feel the same way, and all of us love Alien 3. Yeah, but I mean, it's fun to see people that you've seen in other things or will see in other things. Actor from Glory or, Wendell Pierce, the one that gets thrown out the bus, was Perry White in the new Superman movie just recently. And, you see all these faces, like you said, as each one gets introduced, you're like, oh, dude, it's that guy. Harry Lennox, Matrix, loved him in Matrix. So, as you get introduced to each of these different people, that was really cool. Like to get to see like this all-star cast of people in this movie, in this like very low budget movie and kind of a, for at least movies that I saw in the 90s, this was nowhere on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
What I knew of the Million Man March was what I saw on the news. And that's pretty much it. Like that's all I knew about it was the few things I saw on the news and, so any movie that was made about it by Spike Lee is probably not something that's going to be, especially at this point where what are we, freshmen, sophomores in high school? This is definitely kind of flying under the radar of movies I would have sought out as a 15, 16-year-old in high school.
Well, yeah, same. And I think that a lot of it is, too, this movie is depicting people that have had life experiences that I haven't. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right,
I think
exactly.
so. I think it's very good, especially when movies like this are well done. To obviously, well, first of all, go out and have conversations with people that have had different experiences than you, and honest conversations. I don't know. I think a lot of conversations really should start with more listening than talking. So I think when I say, have conversations with people, go listen to people, listen to the stories of people that have had different experiences than you. And, they might be uncomfortable stories. They might not feel good. It might be, oh boy, this isn't, but I think that's important. And I think the importance of movies like this are, if that isn't readily available to you, right? If you can't go out and really talk to people about their experiences and hear their experiences, you see in movies like this really kind of open your eyes to, oh, wow, so that's what it was about. The Million Man March. That was the kind of individuals that were going there. Oh, wow. The individuals that are going there, some of them are straight, some of them are gay, they don't necessarily all like each other. They don't all agree with each other. These folks, use really foul and offensive terms very openly. These folks don't really tolerate that. It's like I said, I think that's what really helps the world go round is more listening and more understanding. And I think a movie like this really helps that. And it's to my regret that it's taken me 30 years to see it. And, I guess one of the most memorable things that I take away from this movie is, that incredible speech that is it Charles Dutton? That Charles Dutton gave at the end when you're sitting there thinking like, okay, well, what is this saying? I mean, all the characters were very not two-dimensional. They all had their own biases. Some of them had prejudices. Some of them were noble. Some of them weren't. Some of them had life experience. Some of them didn't. And there wasn't really much resolution in this movie. Like nothing resolved. Nothing was, okay, well, now we can, but it was more of a call to action. When he gave the speech, this is what this is about and this is where we have to go, And I just thought that was very profound. And it's just like, and that is memorable to me. And then also thinking when you look back 30 years, okay, so what's changed and what's the same? And what's the same because it's timeless and this is always going to be something. And then what's the same because, man, to quote the West Wing, sometimes we're nowhere. And then other things that, hey, maybe this has changed. Maybe we are more open to that. And again, especially, when obviously the Million Man March and this movie, is a part of Black community, I don't really feel qualified to make statements on it. But as, we're all living in the same country, we're all living in the same world, we all, well, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think it's incumbent upon me to understand that perspective and ask that question or be open to hearing what people of Black community think about these issues now and 30 years on. So I think that I just really, I was just really taken with the movie and just seeing how they portrayed these things.
Yeah, I think, especially because having gotten back to teaching this year and teaching, the time period of slavery and Reconstruction and the Civil War and all of that, I think having gone through and studying some of that with my students, and you get the imagery of the father and son, Evan Jr. and Evan Sr., who are handcuffed together in this, and you keep having them make the comment at different times, like Charles S. Dutton says it, and I think maybe one or two other people say it. It's like, you can't take your son in chains to Washington, D.C. for the Million Man March. Like, you understand what that is going to look like what imagery that's going to evoke for people. And I had to look it up because honestly, I was honestly not my life experience. And so I remember hearing about the Million Man March and roughly what the idea was behind it. So I did a quick little search for kind of what was the purpose of the march at the time in 1995. And the three things that popped up kind of most prominently were it was kind of a call to personal responsibility for African-American men to take an active role in their families and their communities, for atonement, for asking for forgiveness for past mistakes and commitment to self-improvement. And then the other one, it was a huge voter registration drive to try to get people politically motivated, get them registered to vote so that, you could make changes and have a voice in the government and how decisions are made.
Boy, that hits, I'm going to interrupt. I'm just going to say, that hits squarely when you look at what's been in the news in the last week. I mean, yeah. Continue. I'm sorry.
Talked a little bit about Louisiana in our social studies class in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that what is most memorable to me, I think, is the final image. You have that kind of final image of those handcuffs that the father and son had been in handcuffs together for most of this movie. And you have those handcuffs left at the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And just the image of that, the symbolism of that, leaving the shackles at the Lincoln Memorial in particular. I think there's a lot of pretty powerful messages behind that. So I think that image, I will daily double, triple, quadruple, whatever, what you guys said about the performances, because they're amazing. And I always enjoy a good movie that is heavy on the dialogue and heavy on the conversation and all that. And Spike Lee does that so well in his movies, and this is no exception at all. But for me, the most memorable part, I think, is that image at the end of the handcuffs, the shackles being left at the Lincoln Memorial, and kind of what that means and what it means for these characters, what it means for African-American people in general. And yeah.
Yeah, it was. And that I was struck by that. And, I was reminded of that one scene when the father, he's like, "Why is your son in shackles?" Yeah, this is the court order. This is what they ordered. And it was like, not that image going to Washington. And I was reminded of Glory when the Denzel Washington character deserted. And it was, Army regulations state 50 lashes or whatever. And the second in command, why am I drawing a blank on his name? I've been drawing a blank on everybody's name this entire night of recording. He was in Cary Elwes.
Cary Elwes was the actor. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the major, I think, wasn't he? Major,
yeah.
Whatever he was.
Major Cabot.
Yeah, but he looked and he said, "No, Thomas, not Thomas." Okay, I'm not going to try and remember any names, but he looked at the Matthew Broderick character and said,
"Yeah,
what is this?" And the sergeant major was like, as Army regulations. And then he, he looks over at Matthew Broderick and he just says, "You can't do this. Not the whip.
Yeah.
Not with these men."
Yeah.
There's a bigger picture here.
Matthew Broderick's character is Robert Colonel Shaw.
God, Robert Goldshaw. I'm sorry to our 3 listeners out there. I'm sorry to all of you that I just don't, if it makes you feel any better, I forget my students' names too. Anyway.
Well, Thomas, I can see your confusion because Thomas was in this movie.
Yeah, Thomas, exactly. Thomas was in the movie, and Thomas was the name of the, I will be your first recruit. But
yes.
I was reminded of that when, he was sitting there talking to him saying, "You can't do that." And the dad's like, "Yeah, but that's what the court ordered." And then I got thinking, like,
the court might be wrong.
Was that even, dare you say that? But
I'm starting something now.
Is that, no, we're not. It's been going for a long time. It ain't just starting now. But is that even a thing? I mean, I was like, holy moly. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't go Google it and say, was that ever done? Because I think it was such a strong, I think that was such a strong image and a strong, piece of the movie, that symbolism. So I don't really want to find the fact or fiction, but it just seemed like, okay, you would do that, but like, how is that? I don't know. What would that do? What is the purpose of that whole thing? Like, I was just, that image. And like I said, I was reminded of the other movie where it was, okay, well, this is what the law says, but let's take a look at this bigger picture and the history of this whole thing. So
my limited knowledge of this and very quick Googling, I don't believe, now I don't want to say this could never happen because never say never, but I don't believe that a court could ever require that a parent shackle themselves to their child. I believe that if a minor has been charged with a crime and then is released to their parents' supervision, it's more of we're releasing them to your supervision, and usually that would mean you're confined to home. But it doesn't actually mean like you have to be handcuffed to your child. In certain situations, the court, I would imagine, if the court was going to require something like this, the court would probably just say, you need to stay at home. Like, you can't travel anywhere, you can't go anywhere. I would be shocked if there was actually a case where the court said, you want to go attend this march, across the country? Sure, take him with you. I would imagine the court would say, nope, you're not leaving the state. You're not, depending on what the crime was, you're not leaving the state. You may not even be leaving your home. That's what the confinement is, not, sure, handcuff yourself to your kid and then get on a bus and go across the country. So that, I don't want to say it couldn't happen, but that to me is probably, might be the most fictional thing that happens in the movie. But it's good symbolism.
Yeah, it's an incredible, the whole movie, and all of you said that build up to that scene at the Lincoln Memorial.
And Jeremiah, I love the character of Jeremiah. The older man on the bus that's kind of like drawing everybody together, the one that ends up dying in the end. He is his entire performance and everything he does to try to draw all the younger men together and share some of his knowledge and his wisdom and all of this, and is just such a really good performance.
I feel like, on a more humorous note, when the one guy, the foul-mouthed guy, got on the bus and started, I'm sorry, backing up, John, 100% agree. Totally agree with you. I thought he was the moral compass, and he spoke from a position of experience. It wasn't like he was, extraordinarily intelligent or strong or any one of those things. And as I say that, he was a very intelligent person. He was a very strong person. But he wasn't like Superman, right? Or a Captain America. He was just a guy that and I forget the reason, but he ended up because of the job. He got the job, and that's why he didn't go on the first march. And he was like making up for that mistake that he had made. And I really, really I find those characters very real, and I would say relatable, but just a character that I very admirable, and they're very real. So, I love cheering for the Supermans and the Captain Americas and the, Black Panthers and all the characters that are imbued with a superpower. But I really like the characters that just a guy, just trying to make up for mistakes that they made or chances that were missed, and trying to pass that on and help other people be better. Like, hey, here's been my experience. Just learn from it. He was an incredible voice of reason and an incredible guide, but it was all because of the experiences he's had, the mistakes he made, and what he learned from. And I really I really like those characters in serious movies, in fun movies or whatever. I like the character that's just just a regular guy that's learned a lot and is trying to, pass things on. Ones that are, great communicators. In a way, there really was no set leader, but he really led in a very subdued and humble way. Just, by asking questions or just saying a couple things just to kind of change the focus of the conversation. I really, really like that character a whole lot. And I said backing up to make that point, and then I forgot what the heck I was going to say otherwise. But I wanted it.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that Spike Lee is really good at is having that ensemble cast. And I was reading something somewhere. They were kind of referred to it as the protagonist. Like you said, there really is no leader in this. Like you get some advice from the George character, from the Charles S. Dutton character. You get some advice from the Jeremiah character. But what I read, kind of the way they worded it, was the group is the protagonist. So it's more so the group of men are your main character, not necessarily each individual man that's on this bus, but rather the group is its own protagonist for this.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I was remembering that on a lighter note. I feel like it's a Spike Lee. I don't know if it's like he does it in all his movies, but it's a very common thing. Like whenever someone is getting tossed out of something, or like a more, not the character we like, someone that's more of a negative thing, like that car salesman that just did not read the scene, very arrogant, foul language that is getting questioned on. Like when you use that word, who are you referring to? Why are you, when they throw him off the bus and it's the upshot and he's like kind of going over the camera. I feel like that's common in a lot of Spike Lee movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just something, I haven't researched it, but I've noticed it, and it always kind of makes me laugh when he uses that car, and it's like a slow motion when they chuck him off the bus. Yeah. But man, all the characters and just the reasons why. And I remember hearing one time someone saying, and again, it was one of these things that was a couple of years ago, and it's like, hey, we all need to learn how to communicate. And it was coming up around one of the elections, and it was like, arguments aren't the way, right? Like just presenting more facts, or, like that, or just having a quicker debate style, or overwhelming someone with your logic or your intelligence is not going to convince people to your side or motivate people to your side. The best thing that you can do is just listen. And this was kind of like if you're having conversations around the water cooler, around the dinner table, and they're getting heated, and it's not worth burning friendships and family ties and all that for this. Do more listening than talking, but then also just tell stories. Just tell stories as opposed to coming in on the lecture thing. Just say, hey, well, here's what I've seen, and then people might get angry, or, okay, I understand your anger, but here's what I've seen. This has been my experience. So this is what informs how I think. And, I really think that they did a great job in this movie of showing that, of when, man, you would get these powerful scenes where, like, the police officer who in one sense was getting hassled by a number of the other riders for having a white mother, and and they were going back and forth, and so they were all kind of ganging up on him. Then you find out he's a police officer. Okay, well, this is obviously, I'm not getting, this is not going to be, someone that's going to get pushed around too much without standing his ground. And then he gets a chance to do that. But then there's the individual that worked with, people in underserved parts of the city, and he got talking about it. But then it comes out he was he'd been in gangs and shot someone. And then the police officers, they each kind of tell their story. And, you find out that the police officer's dad was shot, and his thing is like, hey, you're not noble to me. I'm going to take you down. And that's my goal, and it's just, wow. There's very little common ground there. And then it came back again later in the movie. I think they were in the hospital room, and it was something like, yeah, we shared this experience, but just so you know, I'm debating whether or not when this bus gets back to LA, haul you in. And it's just, it wasn't, and unless I misread it, that wasn't from like a Javert standpoint of I serve the law, but more just we need to clean the streets up, and that's your problem. But again, where he his own story led him to one thing. You understand it because here's his story. Now he's making these statements and he's telling this other guy, like, well, this is the way it is. Then the other guy's kind of like, I understand, but this is all I knew growing. Like, this was my experience growing up. Like, how much choice do I really have? And well, you have a choice whether or not to pull the trigger. I'm rambling, so I'll stop.
Yeah, no, and if that's one of the things about if that's part of the meaning behind the Million Man March is accountability and atonement and things like that, then is being arrested and brought in for the crime, no matter how long ago it was or how many people you killed or whatever it is, that part of that? Do you then go serve that time to atone for what it was you did? Or is it, so you get a little bit of Les Mis stuff. It's like, do you serve the time for a crime that you committed? Or is there mercy involved? Or is there, like that's the one thing I think Spike Lee always does really well is every movie I've ever seen of his is thought-provoking. Whether it's situations that I relate to completely or not, it's every single movie I've ever seen of his is thought-provoking, and it's got good, difficult things to discuss that I don't think always have a very clear-cut answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I always appreciate about his movies and how he does that well. He's very deft at being able to pull that all together in a way that's not. I don't think it comes across as too preachy. I think there are some moments in this movie where it gets close to being a little preachy, but I think he's able to get it kind of close and then back it off.
And you're exactly right, John, because with at least I feel like it is like I don't have a resolution. Like, and I'm not trying to lead it one way or the other, but this thing with the guy that had been in the gangs and the police officer that going back and forth, I don't know, because like you say, and is just serving the time. Hey, you just go in. This is the law. You serve the time. No exception. Is that the best, or is atoning for things turning around and trying to give back to the community and make sure however many other kids don't make the same mistake you did? Right? Like, the Les Mis reference, take the silver candlesticks, I bought your soul, and so, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to hint one way or the other, but it really is. And you're right. It really just, opens up all these different thoughts and debates. And yeah, I was very taken with this movie, and I'm very sad it's taken me 30 years to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Do we have any final thoughts before we move on to our 3 questions?
Oh, I feel like I sucked up all the oxygen in the pod.
No,
Sorry, man.
No, it was all good. It was all important things that needed to be said. Yeah, this was an experience, I admit to not knowing much about the Million Man March. Just wasn't, I remember it happening. So this was, it was kind of, for me, it was almost a historical thing, it was something to take in. I feel like I'll have a lot more to say after the second time I watch this movie. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much that I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I've been able to crystallize everything about it, but it was very good.
All right, it is time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Can we just spare a second for the soundtrack? I think the soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. So holy smokers. Like, every tune they fired up was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yep.
You had, was it during the opening credits, you had the Michael Jackson song?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I believe was written specifically for the movie.
I wondered about that.
So what I read was that was written specifically for the movie, did not show up on the actual soundtrack. So if you get the soundtrack, it's not going to be on there. But yeah.
That sounds like a contract dispute with the Jackson folks.
Right. But that was On the Line was the song. But yeah, and some of them, like, as they're singing some of the songs while they're on the bus, like the Papa Don't Take No Mess. Yeah, just an amazing soundtrack. All right. Speaking of music, question number 1. this movie was revolving around the Million Man March. But what is your favorite musical march?
Oh boy, I don't know.
So I need Pat's help here, I think, before I answer this.
Sure.
What defines?
Boy, that's
a
really
march?
interesting. And I wish I could give you like a specific but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I just kind of I know them when I see them. You know what I'm saying? So I can only answer it with examples. I would have to go to like, a musical dictionary to get
Yeah,
like
no,
the
that's fair.
exact like definition to break it all down. But in my mind, I think a march is anything that is just played with like a regimented beat that, has like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 or 1, 2, 1, 2 that you can like move your foot, stomp your feet and move to in time, right? And I think marches were pieces that were, I mean, military based. The idea is that, you have big groups of soldiers all moving together. And that was kind of the idea behind the march, is just keep them all, moving together. And then I think as everything progressed music wise, the idea of the march as it became more like concert oriented, the idea, the marches would be written to commemorate something. Right. But yeah, I want to, and we'd have to go to the Google because I'm the last one to say that I know much of anything about music, but especially marches is, it's kind of funny. Like, I'll quote the West Wing. You remember when Sam Seaborn tries to sneak in because Leo McGarry's daughter was going to be in that school tour, and he didn't realize Leo McGarry's daughter was the one that was the teacher. And he like snuck in and he's like, yeah, I'll take you guys on the tour. And they started asking him all the questions about the White House. And he like didn't know anything about the history of the White House. But do you guys remember that little sequence? But then he like knows policy.
Oh, yeah.
He's brilliant. He's an incredible speechwriter. He's a lawyer. And okay, I'm not brilliant and I'm not incredible, but it's almost like the same thing. Like, I don't know the absolute history of the marches, but like teaching bands and taking bands to contests for the last however many decades, it's like, I've learned all the little stylistic pieces of how you need to play a march correctly. But I only have a really cursory understanding of it. And I think marches came up, as band instruments started getting played. I think marches are based, I want to say largely like British. That's a big influence because, whenever you just have groups of soldiers, and I think our army originally was modeled along the British lines, right? And so you just have soldiers marching together. And maybe even roots in the whole idea of the fife and drum corps, where the flutes are playing a little lighthearted melody, bum 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 ba da da dum ba da dum bum ba da da dum. Then there's a drum beat, there's a drum beat going, so you're all, stomping your feet down the trail to get to the battle scene. And then, as more and more instruments were introduced, and again, the idea of a British brass band playing marches, probably dates back hundreds of years. And then marches became more and more a part of like band culture, and they grew up from there. And then you had composers that just took them, like John Philip Sousa obviously wrote hundreds of marches, and Carl King. And then they got adopted to other things, right? Like there'd be circus marches. Okay. And then, marches for, the president, whenever the president comes in the room, you're supposed to play Hail to the Chief, that whole thing, so there's ceremonial marches, and then there's, circus marches that are a lot of fun. There's really fast marches called gallops, there's slower marches. And again, I think like the British style tends to be a little bit more of a stately kind of march, but again, it's just got a heavy rhythm that's even. You don't necessarily hear marches in, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, kind of which would be like a waltz, like a dance, but it was just meant to get people moving down the road. Again, anything more than that, I would point to examples. Here, listen, this is a march, but to put it into words, I'd say look at like the Oxford Music Dictionary or something like that and see how they define it for the specifics. That's where I would go. Was it helpful, or did I just take
helpful.
like 45 minutes to like say nothing?
Well, I mean, no. Oh, no. No. I think it was helpful. I mean, I know nothing about music. It's go back to The People versus Larry Flint. I don't know anything about music, but I know it when I hear it. Yeah. So mine are going to be very movie based, and I was trying to decide. I'm like, well, the obvious has a march in the title. Like that's real easy to just say the Imperial March.
Right. I mean, that was one of the first things that popped into my head.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, the Imperial March, that's an easy one. It's right
Mhm.
there. It tells you it's a march.
Yeah.
The Raiders of the Lost Ark theme, I think, would that be considered a march? I think. Yeah. But the one I think I'm going to go with, because I love this piece of music. Bo knows that I enjoy it so much. We used it to walk in to the reception at our wedding. So I think I'm going to go with the throne room finale at the end of the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think
Seems
that
to
fits.
make the most sense.
I think that fits the definition of a march. That
Mhm.
bum, ba ba bum, ba ba bum, bum 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 ba 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 bum, ba ba bum, ba ba bum, bum 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 ba 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 bum, bum 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 bum.
Oh yeah. Hey, so I just looked it up on Google. Music, a musical composition with a strong, steady, even beat, often 2/4 or 4/4 time, designed for marching. There you go.
I mean, I guess you've always got
Yeah.
Spaceballs.
Well, that's yeah. Well, I mean, what the Ding Dings
There
were
goes
singing, I
the
think that's the Colonel Bogey March. Yeah.
Well,
But the march itself is
that's-
called Colonel Bogey.
It's Bridge Over the River Kwai. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I heard. Okay. Well, and then there's the Great Escape March.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Raiders March and the Imperial March. Boy, and you get an orchestra, kick that up, man. That'll yeah, that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bo, did you chime in?
All right. Did everybody chime in?
No,
No?
I've been
Okay.
struggling with this one,
Mhm.
but I think
Okay.
I'm gonna stick to what you know. You know, I'm gonna say the Imperial March. It conveys so much in such a short couple of chords, man. Like it, and it has transcended its source. Like you play that song, and someone who's never seen the movie still sort of gets where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's because they've seen it on a commercial or whether they've seen it at Disney or whatever it is, like it.
Or if you've watched college football in the last 40 years.
Exactly, right? Like,
Yeah.
or even high school football.
Or high school
we,
football, yeah.
We play it. Our marching band plays it, right? Like our pep band. We don't march, but you get the idea. Like, you know, it's just
Yeah.
one of those tunes that everyone sort of knows what it is
is
and
an
why they're
awesome
playing
piece.
it. So, yeah.
And it's an awesome piece. You know,
All right.
the Imperial March.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it fun to play?
Yeah, it's incredibly fun to play. We're playing it right now, and like every kid comes up, can you give me the melody part? I really don't want to play bum 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 bum. I want to play so I got to like transpose the melody so everyone could play it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But the
Yeah.
point of that is
well-
you gotta have it all. Like you gotta have all the parts, man.
yeah. You tell them that,
There's
and then they
no
look at you
small
and say,
parts, only small
yeah.
players.
So can I have the melody so I can play bum 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 bump it up? Yeah. Okay. John, I know we're bumping up against time, but you mind if I throw a couple of marches in there that are pretty fantastic? So, and it's funny because you mentioned football, and I've got to Google it real quick because they used this on Chicago Sports Radio used this, but there was this thing in the 1960s, and this guy had written a whole bunch of marches for NFL football, and there's this one, and it was this awesome brass, Burnham, 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 bum, Burnham, bum, 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 and it had this drum thing. Do you? Is it just my bad singing, or are
Yep.
you recognizing it?
Love that. Oh
No,
no,
yes,
I know.
yes.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, it was
Wouldn't they
the NFL
play that
films,
on
and
like the NFL
what
films?
was that?
Yeah.
of
The
videos you
NFL,
could
it
get?
had
Yeah.
a name, and the guy wrote a whole series of them. But I mean, that sucker, man, that gets you excited. The NFL films theme, and it was something of classic battle, the Autumn Wind. That's what it was. I think it was the Autumn Wind.
Yes. I knew as soon as you
or
said
it was like Roundup
yes. Yes.
the autumn wind. Anyways, yeah, just Google it around till you hear it, and it's so fun to listen to. And so that one's great. And it was NFL.
You apparently can find. Apparently, there's some albums on. I have Apple Music, and so I was looking real quick on Apple Music. You can find some
Yeah,
albums.
and then
called
remember they
Music
put
from
the NFL films, and then there'd be that narrator.
Volume 1, Volume 2.
And on the
yeah.
cold day in the frozen tundra, the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi won their third. That's right. That's right.
Frozen tundra
Bum, bum, ba, da, 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 da,
Lambeau
bum, bum.
Field.
Throw something on the record player and just absolutely like have the walls vibrating with Sousa marches and all that kind of thing. I'll tell you though, the one march that really jumps out, and the ones you guys mentioned, fantastic, right? Like the Imperial March, the Raiders March, just classic pieces of music. But there was one that when I first started teaching at Hawthorne and listened to Jim Garbrecht's band, my mentor and very good friend Jim Garbrecht's band, he directed one and he did a piece called Black Granite. And there's an actual Black Granite that's played by like pro bands and top college bands and the Marine Corps band. And then they wrote one called Black Granite 3 that was more accessible for junior high. And, maybe younger high school groups would do it too. But it's written as a commemoration for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Black Granite. And if you listen to it, to say it's stirring is like an understatement. It's pretty incredible. So the march Black Granite by James Jose, I think it is, really incredible march. And like I first heard it just coming out of college and listening to Jim's band play, and the band absolutely tore it up, and I was like just floored. So that's always been one of my favorite marches. That one's pretty incredible. And then I'll tell you, there's a composer. Well, each year the Marine Corps does a bracket in March called Sousa's March Mania, where they pick, I don't know how many marches, and then every day you can vote head to head. And it's great because the kids listen to them and get fired up, and you can find the whole playlist on YouTube or through the Marine Corps website. So if you want an education on marches, start there because they have an incredible array of marches to listen to. But there's this American composer named Charles Ives, and he wrote in the early part of the 1900s, and he was a real estate salesman, but just music was kind of in his side passion. And he passed on, and then they discovered that he'd written all these pieces of music. But his music was so creative and so unique because he was fascinated with sounds that would normally be clashing and dissonant. Like he would be fascinated by church choirs where certain groups would just sing slightly out of tune. So the harmonies were a little bit, off. Or if he was at a parade, he would try to listen to two bands at the same time, like the one leaving and the one arriving. So a lot of his music, he would write it in two different time signatures, which means you could have one that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 going up against 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It almost sounds like you have too many YouTube windows open that are playing at the same time like that. But he would write it in. And so his music is very unsettling and dissonant and clashing and just absolutely beautiful. And he wrote a march called They Are There. And it is so great. And you listen to it and it's just a ride. And it has all these wonderful dissonances and clashing and all that. And I really enjoy it. So I guess that's the other one that I'd want to throw out there along with Black Granite. Anyways, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, but if you're going to listen to one, well, actually, if you're going to listen to two,
I have more
Black
stuff to listen
Granite,
to now.
James Jose, and They Are There, Charles Ives. Awesome stuff.
If you're going to watch one movie this summer, watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. If you're going to watch two movies this summer, watch Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. Question number 2.
Define
favorite
features.
movie that features a bus. There is a prominent scene in the movie where a bus plays a role, a bus is a setting. I mean, there's the very obvious one.
Well, yeah, and that's the one. It's the one I jumped to right away, and then I was like, "Oh, come on!"
So, other than the obvious one, because that would probably be my pick as well.
Outstanding choice.
Have to go Star Trek 4.
That's a really good one.
What
Excuse
a
me,
great
could you
movie
turn
that was.
down, please, Captain. I've noticed that Admiral. I've noticed you've started to use a lot of colorful metaphors since we. The other one that I thought of, the runner-up, and I don't know if I'm going to steal this from anybody, was the other fun one that I kind of like is maybe my runner-up to Star Trek 4 is, do you remember, was this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, we watched that Sylvester Stallone movie, The Specialist, and there was the scene where he gets in the knife fight with the guy on the bus because he tries to give up his seat to an older lady or a pregnant lady or something, and then the punk sits down and takes the seat after he's got up to give it to the lady, and then the punk pulls a knife on him and he like beats him up and throws him out the window. Yeah, that might be my runner-up, just for fun. But there's so many fun movies where, I don't know, like a bus blows up or a bus, I don't know, does something or what was that? Was there a scene? Was it the newest Doctor Strange? Was it Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Wasn't there a scene where like he has to like
might have been
slice a bus in half or something? He uses his He uses wizardy powers, and then he has to, like, a bus gets thrown at him by a interdimensional creature, and he's got to slice it in half. I might even be thinking of, what was the movie, I'm going to get the name wrong.
Yeah, Shang-Chi and yes. Yeah.
What was the 10 Rings? Shang-Chi. And there was a scene, I think, where he had to, like...
Well, there was, but there was
slice
also
up a
a
bus
really
or
great
something.
fight
Like,
sequence on a
being
bus.
thrown at him, and...
That was sick. I watched that a couple times.
Yes. Yeah.
In a row when I first watched that movie. I was like, dang, that's pretty sweet. I was going to say The Dark Knight, but I feel like that's kind of like a cheater. I mean, that's kind of like, I'm talking about a great movie because it had a bus scene in the beginning. But I will say that scene showed the coordination and the intelligence, the sick, psychopathic intelligence of the Joker, but just how he had that whole thing timed down and just all planned out, and how life was not valuable to him, where it was just like, well, spoilers for Dark Knight, but you have this whole like choreographed, robbery. And at the very end of the robbery, he's just like walking around the guy to get him in the right spot, that the bus backs into him. And then he gets up into the bus and then drives out the door and pulls right into the school dismissal traffic. I mean, it was, yeah. But I think that's maybe not within the spirit of the question you're asking.
I thought about a couple as I was thinking about this, and there's the bus scene in Billy Madison that's pretty funny. There's a lot of random bus scenes, but the movie that I finally came back to is Quick Change, 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Murray, Randy Quaid, Gina Davis. They're on, and what's his name's in it too? Why can't I come up with his name? Monk.
Well, Tony Shalhoub.
He's in it, if I remember correctly, because they have a whole scene where he's like, yeah. But the end of the movie's on a bus, basically, right before it ends.
I don't think I've seen that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I don't think
and
I've seen Quick
I
Change.
finally got my IMDb to load, and I'm not seeing Tony Shalhoub, so maybe I have him back.
He is. He said that it says he's a cab driver.
Okay, yeah. He was a cab driver because he said Bluff-Tome, and I believe that meant bus or something to that effect. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's a very strange movie.
Mm-hmm.
But in a memorable way, that bus scene is just, it sort of all comes to a head on the bus. And then, I don't think anyone's actually said the word speed, but I think we have to say that. I think we're contractually obligated to say speed.
Yes.
At some point in the conversation.
Yeah.
If we don't, I think the podcast explodes.
Right. I mean, I think they come get us. They take us out back.
It's either if we don't say it or if we talk slower than 55 words per minute, then I think the podcast explodes.
Then the podcast explodes. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, see, they
We
talked
used to have
fast
other
enough to
hosts on the show,
activate
and they
this
talk too slow, and they're not with us
mechanism.
It's just, it was over.
That's true. That's the other thing. That's the message of the movie Speed is, you know what? Don't try too hard and don't try too little. Just be mediocre.
Yeah.
Right.
If you just be mediocre, you'll never have any problems.
Message well taken.
That's what I learned from Speed. All right. And finally, question number 3. Would you rather have $1 million, or would you rather live at the age you are now for 1 million hours, which the equivalent would be 114 years? So what would you rather have? Would you rather have money? Would you rather have the $1 million, or would you rather live the age you are now?
That one's easy for me, the 1 million hours.
1 million hours. Really?
I debated this one a little bit because it sort of depends on the rest of the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm going to live for another 100 years, most people I know are going to die. I'm going to meet some new people, and they going to die too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking the $1 million.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily need or want more time. I feel like with $1 million, that's enough for it to not just be like stupid extravagant, but it's also enough to, at least pay off any debt or anything like that currently exists. I feel like that's enough to at least allow life to be a little more comfortable. And I'm okay with that. I think I'd rather have the time that I have currently, because 114 years is a bit much. I'm like, I don't know, if you want to give me 3 decades at the age that I am now, okay, I might take you up on that. 114 years, I'm not sure I want that much time at the age that I am now. It would be interesting to see. like how the future plays out. If you hadn't, the 114 years, the million hours is excessive. I think, given that, I think I would take the $1 million, because then I think that would
let me ask you this,
that would
though.
lighten the load on whatever.
If
time
I take the 114 hours and I stay this age, does that affect my retirement? So technically, if I last 8 more years, and I'm rounding, I can give you the exact.
Probably, I mean,
if you need me to get the exact, I'll pull up the app, give you the exact. But I'm rounding, so 8 more years. Now, if I stay the same age as I am now, are they going to be, I'm sorry, but you're still this age? Or is it, no, you've worked those 8 years? So I just need to know that before I fully commit.
And are you wondering if the retirement...
No. I'm just, will I still count as being fully vested
the entire
in 8 years? So I get...
Oh,
okay, easy. 114 years.
Yes.
I'll start a second career.
Okay, all right. Okay.
See, I was thinking it was more about, I was thinking it was more about, will they let me collect it still? Or are they going to say, no, you haven't hit 55 or whatever. You can't collect your money because you're not aging. Because that'd be some horse crap.
And I think in the midst of this conversation, it does go without saying.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Hello.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I still opt for the $1 million. I think I take the $1 million. I pay off whatever needs to be paid off, and if there's any left over, I can buy the little 2-screen movie theater that's in Libertyville and fix it up and do my movie theater thing.
There you go. Take out another loan that you just paid off for the movie theater.
I guess that's true. Yeah. That's what I've learned. I've been listening to podcasts on how wealthy people do their there was a news podcast explaining how wealthy people barely use any of their own money to fund their lifestyle. And I'm like, so basically what you're telling me is I just need to constantly take out loans.
Seems that way.
That's kind of what I've learned. I don't know if I learned the right thing. I'm not sure I'm going to get the same loans.
114 years from now.
I'm going to go with no.
Yeah.
2140, right?
Yeah, 2140.
iPhone.
What are you're going to be on the iPhone?
I personally will not be on the iPhone
130 something, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the phone will be implanted in your eye. It will be a literal iPhone.
That's right.
At that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give some context, if you want to know what 114 years ago from now is, it would have been 1912. Yeah. So if you take it backwards,
that doesn't seem
it's
bad.
1912. If you take it forwards from here, it's 2140.
When was the first Indianapolis 500?
Yeah.
I know. I'm kind of like just saying it.
You're the better person to answer that.
I'm trying to go sans Google and Google everything. I'm trying to be like, does anyone know? I think that was still the Indy 500 is still going on. I think it's been 115 years for that one.
That kind of question actually has its own name. The term is the rhetorical Cantagallo. That means Pat is the only person that really is qualified to, and probably has the encyclopedic knowledge to be able to answer that question. Therefore, the reason
Pat
to have
silly
asked
person,
his
but
own
it's more
question
just musing out
seems
loud.
very silly. All right. No, that's fine.
That really doesn't seem that long ago. All right,
Musing
I'm
out
definitely
loud
going
or the rhetorical
114.
Cantagallo.
I'll collect the pension, and if I'm gonna stay like this, I could still work.
You're
going
You're going
Dear
114
God, I'm
years?
not 25, but I can find other things to do. I was always curious about a second career.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll be like the guy in Ben Kane Bronson. I'll just disappear on my motorcycle and ride around.
There you go.
Yeah, but I've watched The Highlander.
Yeah, I've seen too many vampire movies. They just always seem sad. Well, that's true too. Yeah, but you live
that's
too
true,
long,
and there was
you
sadness
end up
for
with the
him
crap
as
in it.
well.
As we know, the best life advice that you can give is
Maybe I just
better
burn
to
out over a
than to
period of
fail.
114 years. Aren't there some stars that are doing that right now?
I guess.
Well,
so.
no one ever accused me of being quick.
It's a slow burn, but yeah. All right. Well, I care. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. That's going to do it for Get On the Bus. And so the last movie
there we
left in our road trip month is Beavis and Butthead Do America. So
Cornholio.
Finish it. Yeah. There are so many ways. In fact, sometimes my lovely wife will watch our movies with me, and I preemptively said, "You're welcome." And I think that's all I said at first. Was I said, "You're welcome." She's like, "What are you talking about?" I've already watched one of the movies that we need to watch this month. You do not need to watch it with me. She said, "What movie is it?" And I said, Beavis and before I even finished the word butthead, I think she was like, "Yep, I'm busy." I'm like, no, I've already watched it. No, I'm busy. I'm already
washing
proactively
my
busy.
hair.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Washing his tights.
And where is the Batman? He's at home washing his tights. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we listen to the podcast, The Greatest Generation. They talk about being a podcast that's slightly, just a little bit embarrassed to have a Star Trek podcast. So when I've gone to the chiropractor lately to fix some back issues, and while I'm there, as I'm doing some of my stretches and exercises, I'm able to prop my little phone up on one of the machines that I'm using as I'm doing some of these stretches and exercises. And the other day, while I was there, I was doing these while watching Beavis and Butthead Do America.
And you were embarrassed?
I was slightly embarrassed because I realized there are people also working out behind me that can see exactly what I'm watching.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a grown man.
Uh-huh.
And in this case, grown is spelled Groan.
Exactly.
I'm a grown man, and I'm watching the Beavis and Butthead movie.
Where are you doing the exercises
While I'm
again?
doing my exercises. I have no explanation.
Yeah.
No explanation for this
You
at
see,
all.
when I was on the treadmill yesterday, I had WGN News on the screen.
See, that's...
But I had the Greatest Gen Guys Wholesome podcast and an episode of Greatest Gen in my ears.
Oh, there you go.
Which made me
That's
amused.
Awesome. You're
but
like the
everyone
kid with
thought
the comic
I was
book
watching
in
the news.
you know what I'm saying? You're like the kid with the
Look
comic
at
book
him.
in the novel. Ooh la la.
That's right.
Ooh la la. Ooh la.
Yeah. What do you put on at the gym to really
we're
like
nothing if
virtue
not
signal,
semi-culture
right? Like what do you
here
put
at
on to
the-
be like hardcore or something? So when someone walks by, like, Gilmore Girls. Okay, I don't know who we're signaling to, but
Gilmore
okay.
Girls.
Okay.
Yes.
You asked. It's a signal. I'm not sure what it is.
Right.
No, gosh, let's think about that for a second. What would be like the gym?
Yeah, I'm
virtue
doing
signal?
my crunches so I can fit in with the other beautiful people in Stars Hollow.
Exactly.
That's
It'd be like, you know what?
it is a little frightening that I know what that is.
Yeah, that's one that is creeped into the lexicon, isn't it?
Well, it's because I have a
I
daughter
think-
that has probably watched all the seasons of that show multiple times.
I think it would
That's
be
fair.
like it would be like a literary flex, right? Like the Divine Comedy unedited, right? The Decline and Fall
Right.
of the Roman Empire. Like something War and Peace.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like that's what you do when you want people to walk by, go snap.
So I think I have a 14-day trial for Audible. So when I go tomorrow, I'm going to make sure that I put up the how to win friends and influence people.
There you
yeah.
go.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah. 7 Habits of
Wasn't a
Highly
bad
Effective
book.
People.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's actually
do
an
that.
old book. How long has that sucker been out?
No, yeah. Men
How
are
to
from
win-
Mars, women are
What
from
about
Venus.
the 7 Habits?
To Win Friends and Influence People's been out for a long time.
It's been a while, yeah. That's been out for a while too. Is that
I
at
mean,
least the 7?
I was going to say 7 Habits was probably the late 60s, early 70s,
Yeah.
right?
Probably.
And then Win Friends and Influence People, that was at least that. Probably longer. Because he started as sort of like wasn't he a door-to-door salesman?
That sounds right.
So that could have been the
I don't recall,
50s.
but okay. Well, either
I
way.
read the book. You think I'd remember, but no.
Yeah, that's all right.
Speaking of books, well, do you want to finish the recording and then I'll tell my... Okay. I'm realizing that we're at an hour and a half already.
That's fine. We're professionals here. We know what we're doing.
Says who?
Don't give me that look.
Huh.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this one. Join us again as we finish off this month. Next week is Beavis and Butthead Do America. In the meantime, there's going to be a lot
Join us. Never join us or die.
Hey, baby, come to Butthead. I'm ready for love. There's going to be,
oh boy,
one of those ones that we're just going to quote all kinds of stupid stuff. But the problem is we have to be on our best behavior because I think we might have guests. So
Yeah,
Criminy.
it's like,
That's not fair.
I know. Is typically, I don't know if it's expected of us, but what people expect us to probably do with a movie like this. But in some ways we're like, but there's guests. So we have to, I don't know. It's like when guests come over to your house. At the very least, you got to put pants on.
Right.
So at the very least, we're going to wear pants.
We're going to wear
talk
pants.
about Beavis and Butthead to America.
As far as you know, I'll be wearing pants.
Yep, wearing pants on the Zoom call, COVID style, and say what kind of pants. On that note, everybody be excellent to each other. Put your pants back on, and we'll see you back here next week.